here we go. A fresh batch of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. I'm your host, Vito Chirco, alongside John, the Doc, McAroo. John, what's going on today?
Good morning, Vito. It's a good day talking baseball. I love podcasting. I'm looking forward to hear what you got in terms of the news regarding the Tigers and all across Major League Baseball. Let's kick this bad boy off.
And you know what? Let's start off. What should we start off with today, John? What do you want to start off with? How about the Tigers' 4-game win streak? Let's look at that now of recent memory. Their first 4-game win streak since April. John, how about that fact? And that tells you how bad the Tigers have been this year, huh?
Well, Vito, you're a man of many talents, but first and foremost, get up to the mic so I can hear your.
And we're on the mic now.
Your
we're
booming
all over
voice.
the mic.
All right, Vito. Yeah, definitely. It was good to see the Tigers play a little bit better versus Kansas City. Nice to see that the Jabba curse that we talked about took place. We had a great 4-game run, and unfortunately, recently the doubleheader versus the White Sox didn't turn out so good.
Couldn't score runs, and that's been a problem as well. Everything has been a problem, though, right? We can describe the Tigers season as a mixture of problems. And they won 4 in a row, 2 against the Twinkies, 2 out of 3 against the Twins in that series from last week. Then over the weekend, 2 out of 3 against the KC Royals, are losing in that last game, the third game of the 3-game set on Sunday against KC 10-3. Got blown out, but hey, they won 2 out of 3. We'll take it as Tigers fans. With this year and how it's gone since starting off 11-2, way under 10-plus games below 500 since. So kind of a good sign. And then they couldn't score, though, against Chicago in that doubleheader yesterday. And what a doubleheader for a Monday afternoon. There was probably nobody at the ballpark, I bet, for that first game. I was asked to go to it. I had to work. I didn't really care about going either.
Well, the night game, though, it was such a beautiful day that if you got a chance to go out there, I think right now with the fans, going out to the ballpark is not so much about wins and losses. It's more about, hey, having a good time. If the Tigers win, hey, that's great. But it's still beautiful fall weather to get out there. And I saw on Facebook, I think, that from the 25th through the 27th, they're running a sale, I think, with the promo code THANK YOU, 50% off certain seats.
It should be like 75% off or 100% off, right?
But it's still a good time to go out there. Baseball is fun, but right now the Tigers aren't in it, and it's kind of took the luster off the season. It's just one of those things where, hey, you gotta go see the Tigers, have a good time, but competitively, you never know what you're gonna get. You're either gonna get a team that's gonna hit and not pitch, or you're going to get a team that's going to have a great performance by JV and get them one run.
Yep.
It's just a tough situation all around. I know we've talked about it extensively. It's time to start looking for the future, but a couple more series left. The season's, thankfully, this season's kind of felt like a long time, and it needs to end quickly.
Be good to get it over with, definitely. And the White Sox 2 more today, tomorrow, and today is Tuesday. Tomorrow's Wednesday when the podcast comes out. So one more game on the day when the podcast comes out against the White Sox, and then the Twinkies for 3 games this weekend. And then we go to Tejas to almost finish off the season, because Friday, October 2nd, we have a game against Tigers against the White Sox to finish off the season in Chicago. Great game, a lot on the line. I mean, that will be a memorable game that nobody will forget for a long, long time. Being sarcastic here.
Nice.
No way will that be the case for the Tigers and the White Sox, who are both very miserable. Who's been more disappointing for you? In my opinion, it's been the White Sox. In a good season where they were supposed to be on, they are only, what? I would like to look it up. But I know at one point, 2.5 games up on the Tigers. So in 4th place, Tigers in last, dead last, have been now for a while, since mid-August. So with that all being said, who's been the more disappointing ball club? I think the Tigers, because they had to kind of take the off year and can retool, reboot for next year, right? White Sox, this was going to be their year where they shined and really overachieved or came to form and made the playoffs, made a run deep into the postseason in October. Now that's not going to happen. They could finish in last place still if the Tigers finish off better than the Chi Sox. And maybe that last game could be the game that decides who finishes in the cellar in the AL Central in 2015.
Man, Vito, when you ask that question, it's disappointing to put the Tigers in that category of a disappointing team, We had such high expectations when this season started. You had everything in place. We thought that the team was poised to make a playoff run after last year's disappointment versus Baltimore, and it just didn't happen for whatever reason. JV's injury lingered a little bit. The Tigers' offense was inconsistent at times, an offense that was able to put up runs sometimes, but then when they would, the bullpen would collapse, and there were several games where Brad Ausmus decided to use maybe the wrong closer or the wrong situation, put in the wrong pitcher.
More than a few situations, right?
Several times. And so that's why, and especially in terms of the payroll, when you're spending out and doling out $175 million and you got several guys who are making $20 million plus, it has to go down that this season is devastating and very disappointing for the Tigers. And it's shown because they've broomed out one of the best general managers. He's gone now to Boston. the Tigers are now looking to completely redo the organization, I believe, from top to bottom. I think that they're still going to be competitive, but the idea that this team, as constructed right now, being competitive for the World Series, it just isn't realistic. You have to be patient, but I do believe Al Avila and the organization will do something to fix the depth issue in the minor leagues and to fix what's been going on. Because with just a couple additions, maybe 1 or 2 starters that get you 15 to 18 wins, the resurgence of JV, Anibal Sanchez coming back, then this team can get back there without waiting 5-6 years. Because a lot of people are getting nervous that this team could really hit rock bottom and get worse.
I don't think so, though. As we've talked about in the past on this podcast, Tigers Talk with Chirco and Co., John, along with me from Doc and Jock, I think realistically they could turn the tables fairly quick because they have a young core with their hitting for the most part, with their pitching not as much. That's where they have to add the 2 starting pitchers. And getting a guy who wins 15 or 18 games, and 2 of those guys might be far-fetched. But they have to get 2 starting pitchers and 1 high-quality, ace-caliber frontline arm to support and or complement JV atop the rotation. And JV has to be as good, if not better, next year as the dominant ace. Be that true definite ace next year for the Tigers. Him, somebody else, and Anibal have to be really good next year, 1 through 3 for the Tigers to return to relevance in 2016. And moving on, kind of checking out the Tiger schedule once again. We did talk about it. I mentioned the teams they have coming up. White Sox finishing off this series against them, then one last game against them at the very end of the season on October 2nd, a game that shouldn't be played, in my opinion, but will be played because it's a part of the regular season Major League Baseball schedule and the rules of that schedule, how every game has to be played no matter the circumstances. But the Tigers right now, John, are at 69-81, 12 games and below 500. It's been bad. It's gotten this bad where they've fallen on their faces and really fallen off the face of the earth when it comes to relevant Major League Baseball clubs.
This is bad.
It's horribly bad, John. I like using that clip now. I like it, how you used it on the last episode 2 of the podcast. And I want to look at now we looked at the potential wins for this ball club the rest of the way last week. Let's do it again now here and go team by team the rest of the way. Here we go, John. So 2 games against the White Sox. They've lost the first 2. I think they win 1. They're not going to get swept against the Chi Sox, but hey, it could happen, trust me. So I'm going to say 1 more win against the Chi Sox, okay? And then they have the Twins for 3 games, okay? At Comerica, though, so I'm going to say they get a win there. So they have 2 more wins as of right now. Then they face the Rangers in Tejas. I'm going to say they get another win there. That's 3 wins. And I'm going to say they win that last game against the Chi Sox and maybe avoid falling into last place for the season. So they get 4 more wins. That would give them now 73 wins. And that would mean they would finish with how many losses? Got to do the math. They play 162 games.
Would it be what? 89 or 90?
89. 89 losses. So 73 and 89, I believe that'd be drastically different and worse from last year. 90 wins to 73. That's a huge drop-off. Nobody saw that coming, no matter the injuries that they've endured through. Cabby being out for that long. I still thought this ball club, John, could get to 79 wins, 81 wins, 83 wins, not too that far below the 81 threshold, which is a 500 mark.
And it was kind of quiet when they were officially eliminated. I think it happened early last week. They were playing a game, and it was announced that, okay, Kansas City is now going to win the AL Central. The Tigers' dominance the last 4 years is now over. It was kind of met with a big, fat nothing.
You're right.
No, I think everyone's kind of now really turned their attention to the Tigers and college football, which is sad because when you have that run, like you had last year, the last couple seasons, it's very exciting. It puts, a little bit of energy in the air. It lets you kind of get excited about watching September baseball, fall baseball. And right now we're forced to watch other teams and to look at other stories and to look at kind of what happened this year to learn from it, and then to also now start to look at what does this Tigers team have to do in order to get back. And it starts with cleaning house in terms of the bench coach, the manager.
Everybody, like we talked about last week.
Yep.
Lamont's gone. Jeff Jones is gone. Vizquel probably will be, unfortunately.
Start
I think
over.
He should
Just
come
start
back,
over.
But everybody will be gone, I think. They're going to revamp the whole the farm system to a certain degree. They've already fired Mike Maroff, like we talked about last week, from bottom to top in so many words. And the whole entire coaching staff, as you said, gone. And the Royals coaching staff, let's talk about them now a little bit. They won't be gone next year because they've been so successful winning the division already. They won it how many weeks ago? They really had that huge lead, that huge hold on the division for how many weeks and months? It's been for more than a few weeks, and really for, I would say, a couple of months, or a month and a half to 2 months. Now, they've had that big definite lead and stranglehold on the division. And now, with that being said, they're at 87 wins, 87 and 62, with The Mariners left, the Indians, Cubs, and White Sox. Now, the Indians and Cubs will be tough. Only one game against the Cubbies on Monday, September 28th. And they finish off against the White Sox before the White Sox, like we said, play against the Tigers. So I'm going to say they sweep the M's, get back on the right track totally. That's 3 more wins. I'm going to say they only win one more game, or win one game against the Tribe in that 3-game set. And then let's say they beat the Cubbies. That's going to be 5 wins, right? 5 wins, and they win both against the White Sox, let's say. That'd be 7 more wins. They would finish with 94 wins this season. So 94 and what, 65?
68, 94 and 68.
Is that 162? That's how we get to it, I think. We can do the math here, too, really quick.
Our math is real great here on the podcast.
It's really great, as you can tell, always, right?
You would D-math.
It's 68. 68 losses. So 94 and 68. I could see that happening, and that would mean they win first place, maybe get some home field for the American League portion of the playoffs, and we'll see. I mean, they're going to win the division. They won't be forced to play in that one-game playoff like they did last year. Will that extremely help them, or will that maybe even hurt them a little bit because there's more pressure and expectations on the Royals this year? What do you think about that, John?
No, I like the Royals. I like what they're doing. I think it's going to be hopefully them in Toronto potentially going deep and having a nice series and seeing what's going on with that. But Kansas City right now, they're the team to beat. I know a lot of people like to kind of pick apart Ned Yost, but the situation is this. You can't make fun of, you can't, look at teams like Kansas City right now and laugh at them like we used to. A team like that, we used to say, wow, they're always bottom dwellers. And systematically, they didn't really sneak up on us because we knew. We saw that they were building through the draft. They made some key free agent acquisitions, and they slowly but steadily crept up on us. And, every year we would say, well, no, they're not going to do it. No, they're not going to do it. We can't take them seriously. Let's look at their history. But now they're a perennial team, and I think that series versus the Giants last year is going to really propel them to a strong playoff push, because when you're that close, when you can taste it, when you're at a Game 7 at home in front of all your fans, and you're that close, you still have runners in scoring position. When the game ended, you had a chance in that Game 7. Baumgartner was just amazing. He was just a guy that, on short rest came in and just shut them down. In long relief, too, after having only, maybe 2 or 3 days rest.
Like 2 days of rest, yeah.
It was amazing.
That was impressive, yeah.
But I think that tasting it that close is going to propel them to have a strong playoff push. But don't sleep on the teams from the National League. I like St. Louis. They're always a perennial team to look out for. And then the young up-and-coming teams, maybe Pittsburgh, the Cubs, are also going to do some damage. So it's that time. I can't wait to kind of break it down with you. What are your thoughts?
It's getting close to October, and the Royals, I believe, are they're not overperforming, okay, at this point, but the pressure, I think, will get the best of them and bite them in the behinds when it comes to October. And Cueto has to be a lot better. And let's talk about him now. His reign of non-supremacy with the Royals since coming over from the Reds at the trade deadline. And really, a recent memory since August 21st, as I was saying before in the pre-show with you, John, against the Red Sox, allowed 6 earned runs and 13 hits. 6 earned runs and 2 starts in a row against the Red Sox and Orioles. And then against our Tigers, 4 earned runs. Not the greatest either. Then 5 earned runs and 7 earned runs. And finally, one good start, one quality outing this last time out against our Tigers on the 18th of September. So he did go 7 innings in that, but still wasn't mightily dominant. 4 Ks, 0 base on balls, okay? Or 1 base on ball. That's not extremely dominant. He didn't really rack up the Ks or show that pure dominant form like he did with the Reds before he was dealt. He had 11 K performances before being traded to the Royals. That was back in early July. Really dominant performances. And the one really good performance, you could say 7 Ks is good. And another one that he had 8 Ks in 9 innings, a shutout pitched against the Tigers. Once again, the lowly Tigers, huh? We've got to really ride on them, right? And rag on them because they've actually been beaten by Cueto, even though we've gotten Cueto too. He's beaten us, too, even during his dry spell this year in the second half with the Royals since being traded over from the Reds. So he's got to pick it up, though, and be better than this guy that has allowed 6 earned runs in back-to-back starts as recent as the end of August. And I think, for me, he's coming to form maybe a little bit now after what he did against the Tigers on the 18th, allowing the 2 earned runs. But at the same time, his ERA is at 3.43, and since coming over to the Royals, I know it's been not impressive, very not impressive. It's been a 4+ ERA, 4.4 something ERA. That's not going to cut the mustard seed and get it done for the Royals in the postseason when you rely upon him as the ace every 5th day or every 4th day in the postseason. That's my worry for the Royals and why I see them falling out, and perhaps even as early as the first round, John. Even though you like them and you're high on them, I'm not as high on them, John.
Now, a lot of people were talking in terms of rebuilding the Tigers starting rotation. Now, potentially, you could have Boyd and Daniel Norris fit in there. But also, too, people are speculating that the Tigers could go out and get a free agent pitcher. And one of the names on the list is Johnny Cueto. Before his recent stretch, he was a guy that potentially people thought that you could get maybe at the higher end of the salary, because you're not going to get a guy in the $20 to $25 million range, but maybe in the $16 to $18 million range. With his recent play and what he might command, do you think Johnny Cueto is an option for the Tigers based on what you've seen? Would you like him here, and would he fit in here with the Tigers?
He would fit in, but I wouldn't want him here. I think he would fit in with the clubhouse, with the foreign ball players that we have. I would say that is a case for bringing him over, and because he's been so good with the Reds in the past and in the first half of this season. But with the Royals in a pennant race, he has not performed up to par. He's not lived up to the bill to be that ace caliber guy. Has not pitched like he's underperformed big time. So for me, I would not want to sign him to that big of a contract, to pay him 18 to 20 to 21 or 22 mil a year over 6 or 7 years. He's not worth that long-term contract and that long-term of a huge investment of 18 to 22 or 23 mil a year. So I would say you pass on Cueto. If you want a big-name starting pitcher, you go after David Price, who's not likely to come back here. I know that much. But he's been the man in Toronto, been that dominant ace.
Like, I think in 10 starts, 8-1, under 2 ERA, like 1.75-ish, I believe.
The definition of what they've been looking for in Toronto. He's for sure that bona fide, that surefire ace that they were lacking. He's been the answer and the guy that has filled that void atop the rotation of the Jays, and why they have a legit shot now at going all the way to the Fall Classic and to winning it all, okay, for the first time since 93? Yeah, I believe it's been that long, and that long of a playoff drought. John, how about that as well in Toronto? David Price will prevail, I think, in the postseason, will get them to the playoffs and be good enough to get them to the Fall Classic. That was my prediction from a few podcasts ago, and that's still my prediction. The Jays get all the way to the World Series, even though they are now missing Troy Tulowitzki and his bat in the middle of that order. That guy that can drive runners, and when he's on, he can hit for power and really hit for average, too. He's that all-around guy at the plate when he is on. But Price, speaking of being on, like I said, he's been on, he's been money. Cueto has not been. So if the Tigers were to go out to get a big-name starting pitcher, a big prize-free agent, it would be David Price over Cueto. But at the same time, John, I think we know at this point, Price isn't coming back to Motown. Don't you agree with that sentiment, too?
Yeah, because he's a Cy Young candidate, and I know you're going to talk about some potential Cy Young candidates later on in the podcast, but yeah, he's going to command north of $200 million, and we're not looking for a commitment that long with a pitcher. No, obviously not, because right now the payroll is scaled back a little bit. It's not going to be super low, but it's going to be nowhere near 175, that's for sure. Hopefully. I know that the Illiches are committed, but I think financially wise and for the betterment of the club, keep it in the 150 range, get more effective hitters at that spot, guys that can, pitchers or outfielders in a range that's manageable but also productive. Because I don't think this team, with the talent that they have, is going to start going out and getting, fill the field with a bunch of minor leaguers, but they're going to get guys with experience, but maybe at a lower price.
We're not big money guys. That's the key, I think, phrase to express to our Tigers faithful, the fan base listening into this podcast and every single edition of it. I think the Tigers are going to go out there and get some free agents, right? Make some acquisitions, but it's not going to be the big money guys that they've gotten in the past. Not the highest caliber guys like David Price, who I don't believe, I was trying to get at it too, I don't think he would want to come back here, no matter the price. I don't think he really liked his stint with the Tigers.
Yeah, maybe a Samardzija, Zimmerman, other guys out there. I know Zack Greinke's in that high salary range. He'd be nice. He looked nice here too. He's been up and down, but his numbers have looked good in the last few weeks.
Well, an ERA below 2. And Kershaw's had ace, but Greinke's been as dominant, if not more dominant, on a consistent basis throughout the entirety of the 2015 campaign. So Greinke's gotten it done. He'll get paid handsomely in north of $200 million. And I think Price will as well, but Cueto should not be paid north of $200 million. He should get paid in that $150 to $175 million range, if anything at all. If you want to go high, you go that high to 175 and you max him out there. And you say, if you want more than that, you let him walk and you go after the likes of David Price. One of those two, Price, or as we said before, you mentioned, Zack Greinke. One of those two you go after, or you pay less money to get a guy like Johnny Cueto, who's good, can be dominant, nearly is on a consistent, every start basis, but isn't at the same time. And that's why you don't pay him $200 million or north of that. And what do you think about that? I mean, I believe there's two guys you pay, as I was saying, north of $200 million, that you're willing to go that far with, and that's Price and Zack Greinke. Cueto, $50 million under that at least. I would say is where you start off, and you might be willing to budge and go to 175. What do you think?
No, I agree 100% with what you're saying. And just real fast to jump around, I remember last week on the podcast we said that any trip to Dr. Andrews is a bad trip. Well, Anibal Sanchez got cleared and was like, okay, no structural damage. So that's the only good news when you go to see Dr. Andrews is if you come back with the report of no structural damage. So Anibal Sanchez appears to be in the mix. You got JV. I think Daniel Norris will be a starter. So that's 3. Maybe you look to one of the guys in your organization like a Lobstein, a Kyle Ryan. But again, they've struggled. They've struggled mightily. I mean, Kyle Lobstein's getting yanked from every single game, almost every game he's in. And Kyle Ryan, maybe better suited for the bullpen.
But Ryan was good, remember, sharp against the White Sox yesterday, and that was game 1, I believe, of the doubleheader against the Chi Sox. But he's been so inefficient from start to start when he's been used in the rotation for the Tigers. I don't trust him at all going into 2016.
Yeah, so...
Lobstein, I do, though, a little bit. I know we talked about the Lobster last week and how you went to that start against the Yanks, I believe, last year, right? And he was good in dominant form. He's not a dominant every 5th day starting pitcher, but can be a 5th starter, I believe, a lot more reliably than the likes of Buck Farmer and Kyle Ryan.
So if there's a pitcher that gets signed, a free agent, who would you want here that's going to be consistent, get us 18 to 20 wins, and be a guy that can eat up innings? Because that bullpen might take time to reconstruct.
How about the guy that was dominant against the Tigers yesterday in game 1 of that doubleheader? Jeff Samardzija, who we've talked about in the past on this podcast, who has struggled from start to start, hasn't been clearly dominant from start to start. For me, I would pay him 10, 12 mil, get him here on a 4 or 5 year contract, and I think he's worth that to come here to pitch in Motown every 5th day. Wouldn't be an ace, wouldn't be JV, but could be a number 2 and slot in very nicely behind JV and ahead of Anibal Sanchez. Then after that, I would sign a 4th, 5th starter like a Doug Fister, who's struggled this year, been demoted to the pennant, 1 point for the Nationals, but everybody's kind of struggled over there in Washington. It's been a bad season overall-wise. I would look into him as a veteran presence to add to the rotation, who was mightily impressive and efficient every 5th day for the Tigers when he was here. So I would say Fister, Samardzija, the likes of those guys. But if you go for more of the big money guys, you go for, like I said, price, you pay him whatever he wants, or you go maybe a little bit less and you pay a guy like Jordan Zimmerman. The 125 to maybe you touch 150. I don't think he'll get that. I think he'll get 125 tops, and that's where I would max out with him as well over a long-term contract.
Now, has the Big Pasta earned a spot potentially in this rotation? His season has been similar to the Tigers, just up and down. Some starts, when he first started with the Tigers, you thought, oh, what a find, an interesting guy with decent stuff. Then he, took that personal time to deal with his father's severe illness. I believe, his father was really close to passing away. He came back and he just wasn't the same guy. He struggled and he got knocked around quite a bit. And so his stats indicate, a guy that we need to kind of make a decision on, who's the real Alfredo Simon.
He's a guy that's shaky, right? He's inefficient. He's no Big Pasta. He is the little pasta when he pitches every 5th day. On a consistent basis, he's the little pasta. But then he shows those glances, right? Those glimpses of brilliance where he can go 7, 8 innings and allow 4 or 5 hits. But then he walks, it seems like 3, 4, 5 guys at the same time. So iffy command, iffy stuff. I don't trust him as that 5th starter every 5th day going forward. So I wouldn't bring him back. But if you got him for a cheap bargain price at the same time, I would reverse the course of thought that I have right now and say, hey, for cheap, you go and sign him maybe on a 1 or 2 year deal, but you don't pay him more than $5 mil, $6 mil a year, and don't give him more than truly 2 years, in my opinion. What do you think? I mean, how many years would you give him if you brought him back? I would say 2 years you trusted him for, and that's it.
1 year.
Realistically, if you can get him for 1 year, yeah, you go down that route as well and do the 1 year contract with them. And I wanted to look at the Rose a little bit more here, and Greg Holland, his struggles of late for KC. And people are talking about demoting him, removing him from that closer spot. He was so untouchable last year, pitching 95, 96 mile per hour velocity. This year, 92, 93. Does that warrant pulling him from that closer role and going to a guy like Herrera or somebody else as a closer for the Royals as they near the postseason? What do you think, John?
Yeah, I agree. I think that if you, as an organization, when you look to a closer, most organizations like guys that throw with high heat because that gets, easy outs in terms of strikeouts. It's very nerve-wracking for the fans. It's very nerve-wracking for the outfielders when you got a guy that his velocity's dipped and he's giving up hits now and then, and you got to pitch out of jams. Most organizations and most teams are comfortable with flamethrowers who get up there 1, 2, 3, no problems. And the Tigers, unfortunately, are craving that as well. The closer position is not easy. I know when you look at it, you think, well, how many dominant closers are there? There aren't too many Mariano Riveras out there that are just going to come in and just dominantly execute in the 9th inning.
Well, who are they right now? I mean, the Mariano Rivera types. Craig Kimbrell, who hasn't even been as dominant this year for the Padres, but usually was in his past seasons with the Braves, very dominant. And then people thought he was the next coming of Mariano. He's not even that good, though. Not even that sharp or impressive. But probably the nearest thing to him, and a guy like Trevor Hoffman used to be, obviously, when he was around with the Padres. So, few Hall of Famers right there. Kimbrel might be one day. Papelbon has been that in the past for the Phillies, for the Bo Sox, even for the Nationals, even though they've struggled down the stretch in the second half of this season. Guys like that. And then you have guys like a Greg Holland. Greg Holland, who has proven has not been nearly as consistent or dominant every single night when he is asked to go close for the Royals and Ned Yost. 3.83 ERA this year. Far from being dominant. Far from what he did the past 4 seasons truly with the Royals. So last year, 1.44 ERA. Year before that, 1.21. Year before that, a shade under 3 for ERA. And if you look at it even deeper, his whip, walks and hits per innings pitched mark, is very down this year. 1.5 almost for his whip. That's very dismal. And it would be his worst whip since year 1 in the bigs for him in 2010 with the Royals when he only pitched in 15 games. So for me, Holland's off his mark right now. And they should make a move if they want to win in the playoffs this year and actually win it all if they get that far. So for me, I see them making that move.
And looking back, too, what else do you look for, too, in terms of a pitcher? High heat, but also, too, an advantage is if he's a left-handed high heat thrower in terms of, being a closer. Who was out there who had a high-velocity fastball and was the marquee closer out there? Andrew Miller. And he was with the Orioles last year, and we got outbid by the Yankees. And potentially, you look at it now as we sit, maybe a key mistake was not really outbidding the Yankees and getting Andrew Miller back in the Tigers organization because, too, he's got great stuff, and you can check the numbers to see how he's done because I haven't picked in on the Yankees. I've been so frustrated with the Tigers, but guy, left-handed flamethrower, a guy that from developing him and then trading him off to get Miguel Cabrera. But I think Andrew Miller would have done well here in Detroit as a closer.
Well, he's better off than every other option that we have right now, the back end of games. And Rondon, will he even be back next year with the Tigers? He's been so bad of late. But I wanted to focus once again. Holland, they should remove him from the Royals closer spot, I believe. I think Ned Yost will have to go down that route. If they don't, and if Cueto continues to struggle, Royals will get bounced. You heard it here first. Royals will get bounced in the first round, in my opinion. If Cueto continues to struggle like he has, and isn't that dominant ace in the postseason, and if Holland is still that closer, day one of the postseason, Royals get bounced that early as a first round. That's my opinion about the Royals and what they can do in the postseason this year with the current state of their ball club. And the closers that are dominant nowadays that are comparable to Mariano Rivera, you brought up another one, Andrew Miller, that could have been with the Tigers. And now he's with the Yanks at the back end of games. He's a reason why the Yanks still have a chance, even without Teixeira, to do something and make some noise in the postseason, in my opinion. That back end of the bullpen as a whole, Doc. And what do you think about the Yanks in the postseason? Because I still have the Jays going further than the Yanks. But the Yanks are right there. I mean, they're right there neck and neck in that divisional race. And I think they will be until the end of the season.
And with most teams, you got to look to the starting pitching. Are they going to be consistent? Is the hitting also going to be there? All you can do is look to the recent past, and when they've gotten to the postseason, they've gone ice cold collectively as a unit. And now Teixeira again is out. A-Rod's had a good season, but in recent past, when he's had good seasons, the Tigers were able to shut him down. So there is a blueprint available to how to shut down the Yankees in the postseason. Can they come back and reclaim their throne? I don't think so. I like a Toronto. I like a Kansas City. I don't believe, a team like the Yankees can do much damage this year.
Who are your American League favorites then? So outside of your great KC Royals, who you just love and praise, it seems like, and you like the Jays like me. I know I like the Jays more than you, but who do you have then as your top 3 favorites, let's say, to win it all out of the American League this year?
No, I would go KC, Toronto, and then the Yankees.
So Yankees are number 3 still, because now we see the AL West. Let's talk about that race. Astros, we talked about them last week, remember, on the podcast. They have dropped significantly. A game and a half
struggles on the road. They just
struggles on the road.
Yeah, I don't think a team like that is going to make some waves right away going into the postseason unless they get on a hot streak this last week. I do believe they will give a team a series. But it takes time. There aren't too many teams that just walk into the postseason and then just start dominating, especially when you have the landscape shaped up as it is right now. You got Kansas City and Toronto. They really 1-2. They're going to battle it out, and hopefully they get a chance to play in the American League Championship Series. That would be the best. But, however it shakes out, I'm hoping that, the American League Championship Series lives up to the hype because it could be a good one. But a team like Houston, I'm not sold on them. They got to show me more for me to say, okay, they have a chance to actually get out of to win the pennant.
Too many power or nothing guys, too, in that lineup. Chris Carter, Evan Gattis. Correa's good. George Springer's very good. Altuve's a contact hitter. But a lot of power or nothing guys 1 through 9. And then Keuchel hasn't been as sharp. nearly as impressive in the second half of the season, and specifically when it's counted in this month of September, where they've had a horrible stretch of baseball, the Astros, and have fallen a game and a half behind the Rangers. And what do you think about the strength of that ball club in Tejas? The Texas Rangers, are they good enough to make a run deep in the postseason this year? What do you think about that?
Ooh, they've been solid all year. A team, again, we know them from the Tigers' struggles with the Rangers. Prince Fielder has come back and had a great season. You like that, but no, I don't have any. Like I said, I don't have any confidence in teams from the West or teams like Texas. I think they'll get. My opinion is it would take. For a team like Texas, it would take an overwhelming feat by a couple players like a Prince Fielder to carry them, because collectively they don't have just as much talent as teams like Kansas City and Toronto, and even the Yankees. So they would have to have some unusual feats, maybe a pitcher, a starting pitcher or two, have performances that you'd consider exceptional. But collectively, I just think that in baseball, more times than not, teams that have more talent get through in playoff series more times than not, and how the series shakes out. But I'm confident. I don't think there's going to be too many upsets on the American League side. If you're going to look for upsets, you probably will look to the National League side, where the talent is more spread out, and it's going to be another great playoff series to watch is what goes on there in the National League.
But I believe in the Astros, okay, more than the Rangers, and I believe they could play Cinderella and knock off the likes of the Royals and the Jays this postseason, and the Yankees, because the Astros can match up with those teams in terms of bullpen strength. Okay, back end of games, you have Will Harris, Luke Gregerson, not overpowering, hard-throwing guys that throw 95 or 95 plus, but they get it done. They're efficient strike throwers and get it done almost every single night for the Astros at the back end of their pen. Then they have some strong arm, firearm guys too in Josh Fields. You have Vincent Velasquez. So for me, Chad Qualls can throw it here and there as well, now kind of past his prime, but still can get to 92 when he really reaches back and throws it hard, can get to 92. So you have Qualls, you have Fields, Velasquez, you have Gregerson, and Will Harris at the back end of games. For me, those Astros, they match up very well, okay, with the Royals, the Yanks, and their pens too. And that's why I believe the Astros could play upset, could be that Cinderella team in the postseason from the American League side. I know you don't believe as much in the Astros, but they get in, I believe, even as that wild card. They could be the Royals of last year, Doc.
Yeah, because see...
Don't you think so? They could be the Royals of last year?
They could be, but I'm always of the opinion that good pitching always beats good hitting. And so...
But the bullpen of the Astros, they have that good bullpen. Now, the rotation not as solid, but you still have the AL Cy Young favorite of recent memory until right now, the last week or two, the last month, specifically, because Price has outpitched Keuchel down the stretch. And we'll talk about the AL Cy Young favorite.
Right, and that's why I think, Kansas City might have a little bit of a worry internally with them, because their starters don't really compare to Toronto's at all.
Not even. And that's really just one starting pitcher just being head and shoulders above what the Royals can throw out there every fifth day. And it's also because, as we noted, Cueto has struggled so mightily since coming over to the Royals from the Reds. So for me, he's got to be a dominant ace, like I said, where you know right now what you're getting out of Price every fifth day. He is that dominant ace, and he's a lot more postseason proven, where Keuchel's not either for the Astros, and Tanaka and Pineda aren't for the Yankees. So for me, the Jays have that edge right off the bat because of Price and his presence at the top of the rotation. And now for me, though, it's about how they finish off the rest of that four-man rotation for the postseason. After Price, who will it be going in Game 2? Will it be R.A. Dickey, a 4 ERA, Mark Burley, the veteran? We know what he can do every fifth day, but he's not dominant or overpowering. And maybe a youngster like Marcus Stroman. So you have a lot of iffy options after Price, 2 through 4 in that rotation for the Jays come playoff time. And that concerns me as kind of a outsider looking in for the Jays. What do you think, though? I mean, that could hold them back a little bit, even though they have that dominant ace who's much better than what I believe the Royals can throw out there as their ace in Cueto. And then what the Astros, because of Keuchel's lack of postseason experience and regular season experience as well. He's a youngster still. And then the Yankees, Pineda, Tanaka. For me, that's where the Jays have that edge at number 1. But after that, they fall back a little bit, I think, in the rankings because of the weakness 2 through 4 in their rotation, Doc.
No, I agree with you. And then it's going to be so good to see also, too. I think in the American League, it's also going to come down to who has home field. A lot of situations come down to, who has the advantage in terms of the last home game. And the first round, it's a 5-game series. First 2 take place versus the lower seed, and then the final 3 games take place with the higher seed. So if Toronto and Kansas City get those advantages and they play the 5th game at home, I don't want to play a 5th game in Toronto. I don't want to play a 5th game in Kansas City.
KC was so vibrant, so lively last year. But I think Toronto, man, they're going to pack that ballpark at Rogers Center. They're ready for postseason baseball. Like the Royals for the first time last year, making it since '85, I believe, right? When Brett and those guys were in KC. So it's been a long time for both ball clubs.
And then also, too, Toronto has been talked about as having one of the most dominant offenses ever. Now it's been hurt by the loss of Tulowitzki, but that offense still is dangerous. That offense can put up numbers in a hurry.
That's right. If they still hit, Doc, they're going to be a mighty strong team to knock off in the playoffs. And the Yankees are going to have a hard time getting past them as well for the division crown the rest of the way. That's why I think the Jays will win the division in the American League East. And I could see a matchup of the Jays and Yanks, American League East powerhouses this year in that ALCS, the American League Championship Series. What do you think about that prediction?
That's nice.
That'd be a good, intriguing matchup, wouldn't it be? Two divisional foes going at it in the ALCS.
That would be nice. It would be good to see. You'd have, definitely the media would want New York in there, all the coverage, all the hype.
And Toronto, a media market too, because, hey, our Canadian baseball team, right now, is Toronto. So you get a big media attention because of that. So you got two big media markets clashing, I believe, is what would happen in the ALCS between the Yanks and the Jays. And that's why I would love to see that matchup between the Blue Jays and the Yanks in the 2015 ALCS.
I just think that the best two would be Kansas City and Toronto. That would be
okay. You're still on that KC. I know you're on that KC bandwagon a lot more than I am.
Yeah, that would have the potential to probably go 7. I think a series with Toronto and New York probably would end in 5. Toronto in 5.
And you have differences too in those ball clubs. Now the Yanks, the bullpen strong, much stronger than the Jays. The Jays' rotation much stronger because of the presence of Price and even Burley in their rotation, where the Yanks don't have those veteran presences that they can throw out there every 5th day. So I could see the Jays winning that. That's why I have the Jays right now going to the World Series.
Nice.
That'd be something, huh?
That would be something.
First time making the playoffs in a long, long time, in 20 years, and making it all the way to the Fall Classic. That's my prediction, and would be great to see for all those Jays fans there in Toronto and Canada and throughout the U.S. And I'm kind of a closet fan right now, I can say that much. And I'm threatened, worried for the Jays about their chances because of that loss to Tulowitzki, but only a little bit. So I'm not extremely threatened or worried because of that loss to Tulowitzki, because like you said, they can still hit. And if they hit like they have shown the ability to, watch out for them come October. And that sums up everything that I have to say about the American League playoff side of things. We'll dive into the NL side of things in a future podcast, probably on next week's edition of the podcast then. And let's take a quick time out here on Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. We'll be right back with some talk about the American League Cy Young race right now between David Price and Keuchel, neck and neck. Those two guys are in the American League for the Cy Young Award. Then we'll look at the greatest Tigers position players of all time. That should be an interesting conversation as well, coming up right after this break. Michigan football greats John Wangler and Anthony Carter will be reunited and joined by their legendary equipment manager, John Falk, this Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. at downtown Royal Oaks, Company 512. Falk, the most well-renowned equipment manager in Michigan football history, will be appearing at Company 512 to promote and sign copies of his new book, 40 Years in the Big House, Michigan Tales from My 4 Decades as a Wolverine. Carter, a 2001 College Football Hall of Fame inductee, will be along to sign autographs inside Company 512. And remember, Company 512 is your downtown Royal Oak destination for all things men's and women's performance wear, footwear, and original athletics. And now welcome back to the 9th edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco & Co. alongside my new sidekick and partner in crime, the Doc from Doc and Jock, John Mackern. John, what is going on? Are you still doing well here after all that talk about the playoffs and your Royals, my Jays?
No, you've broken it down. I'm so looking forward to the playoffs to start. Now, I'm not going to peek in as much, in terms of in-depth. I definitely will watch some Major League Baseball tonight, the recap. I like the debates in terms of, how these players are matching up, how the opponents, how the teams are going to fare against each other. So I like that. I'll peek in for sure just as a casual sports fan. But, like I said, I'm still trying to pick myself up from the Tigers' devastating. It was a knockout. It wasn't like it was a steady decline. It was like a knockout punch. When it went south, that 8-game losing streak, boom, it was a knockout punch. And it's like one of those things where it was like the Mike Tyson fight versus Buster Douglas. Everyone thought, man, this guy's going to walk in and just handle his business. And all of a sudden, probably took the foot off the gas, and all of a sudden, boom, he was on the mat. Buster Douglas, was up and coming, motivated, and boom, Tyson was down. That's kind of how I feel with the Tigers. They were knocked out, and it was unexpected. And, I'm still down for the count. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
They knocked you out, huh?
They knocked me out cold, like, Mike Tyson punch-out style, where the guy just lays down and is out.
Not Floyd Mayweather knockout style. No knockouts from him, and he's retired now. Disgraceful guy, huh? Not to go on a rant about him, but no comparison to Mike Tyson, who, hey, he knocked out a lot of guys, and the Tigers were knocked out very early on, and a lot earlier than many fans thought going into 2015, Doc.
Knocked out Pacquiao style, flat
there
face.
You go. There you go.
From Marquez, to use the boxing reference. Pacquiao was going in hard, boom, punched, and he was on the mat.
He was out cold. And the Tigers were out cold a long time ago this season.
Yeah.
And going on to some good stuff now in Major League Baseball, not Tigers related too. American League Cy Young race material. David Price from the Jays. Dallas Keuchel from the Houston Astros. Who do you like right now? Because I've got some facts here to spread to our listeners out there about why David Price is the new Cy Young favorite in the American League. What do you think about the race yourself?
First and foremost, I have to be a little bit biased. Watching David Price the last couple of years, he deserves it. He's done a magnificent job with really a tough situation. The last 2 trade deadlines being moved from Tampa Bay to Detroit, and then this season he's moved from Detroit to Toronto. And when he's gone over there, he's been 8-1, has been dominant, and he's not just going to a team that's now, out of the race. He's been called to pitch against the Yankees. He's been called to pitch up in tough matchups where he needs to get wins. And not only is he a guy that you can count on for 7 to 8 innings, 110 to 115 pitches, he's a guy that has matured as a pitcher. Not only the guy that was in the past throwing 96 to 98. He's kind of mixed up his pitches now where he can get away with a 94-mile-an-hour fastball. He's able to mix in some good pitches. And then yesterday versus the Yankees, flashed the glove a little bit. Was kind of joking around there in terms of the fact that it was a funny highlight where the ball was popped up and David Price kind of looks around to see if the infielder was going to go grab it, and nobody was there, so he had to go field it. And he was starting to look around, and the announcer said it. Pitchers usually don't catch fly ball outs in the infield. And he was joking around. And then later in the game, he flashed his glove and got a quick out too. So David Price deserves it. I believe that he's going to continue to showcase his massive talent. And you never discount a player when they're in a contract year. My God, when you have $200 million staring you in the face, you're going to
easily $200 million. He's going to get paid handsomely, like we talked about.
You're going to get your stuff in line and in order.
Yeah,
boy. So that's what he's doing. So he wants that money. He wants that big payday. So that's why he's going to bring the stuff the rest of the year. And that's why I don't think it's going to even be close. And it might be close in terms of the voting.
It'll be close, but he's going
to win it.
He's going to win it. He wants some moolah, like you said. He's been re-energized, and he's been magical there in Toronto for the Jays, seeking their first playoff appearance since '93. I hope they get it done, and David Price is a large reason why they will get it done, I believe, in the American League East this year. And look at his numbers now. Some numbers here for you. Wins above replacement. Keuchel has the advantage 6.7 to 6.5 in comparison. But Price, for me, his combined FIP, fielding independent pitching, is better than Keuchel's. A combined 2.76 with the Tigers and Jays, and so good, so dominant with the Jays. In 10 starts now, has an FIP of 2.11 and an earned run average below 2 in those 10 outings with the Jays. For me, when you compare him to Keuchel, who has more wins with 18, but he's only 2-2 with an ERA of 4.44. That's in this last month of September, down the stretch here for the Stros. So he's been not mightily impressive. In comparison, though, Price has been, as he's recorded his best earned run average of the season in the month of September so far, with a sparkling ERA, Doc, of 1.38 and a perfect 4-0 record. You can't beat that. You can't top what Price has done for me. And that's why Price deserves it and will win the Cy Young, his second Cy Young award. Because remember, he won it in 2012 as well with the Tampa Bay Rays. So no doubt in my mind, he's going to get it done unless he stumbles to the finish line. If he doesn't do that, he wins over Keuchel, who will get some first-place votes as well, and deservedly so. Because really, Keuchel was that Cy Young favorite until Price was traded to the Jays, and then he became re-energized and has been so magical there at Rogers Center and for the Jays since then. As you said, too, Doc, pitching against mighty giants, such as the New York Yankees. I mean, he's done that against giants like that, divisional foes like the Yanks, and gotten it done in 8 and 9 inning performances. Where Keuchel, as I said, against his big boys in that division in the AL West, not as good, not as efficient. And that's where it comes down to me. Price has that clear-cut advantage. So with that, we both are on Team Price, aren't we? Team David Price.
Team David Price.
There we go. Hashtag Team Price. Let's get that trending on Twitter there, Doc. And now the last topic for today's edition, the 9th episode of Tiger Talk with Chirco and Co. I want to talk about...
Well, okay, before that, though, I want to bring up one point.
Yes,
and,
go on.
Yeah, I want to bring up a point.
You deserve it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much. I appreciate the love. Lynn Hennig, I know a guy we've been talking about, but has been coming up with some interesting topical articles lately in Detroit news. I know you're a competitor there, but we got to get
He's a competitor, remember that, but I'm not going to bash him. I do like Lynn Hennig, too.
Okay, so came up with Miguel Cabrera was kind of pushing it, too, saying, hey, write it. A lot of people are talking about, the fact that right now, JD's sitting at 37 home runs. Comerica Park has robbed JD Martinez of 5 to 10 home runs, where he could have potentially 42 to 45.
Hennig wrote this and said this?
Yeah, he said that. He said that right now Miguel is pushing to really change the dimensions of the ballpark, and the organization has a chance to really make a nice skyline because center field is just massive.
It is
427 at the deepest part, and JD's cranking them out there, and also too in the doubleheader, Tyler Collins hit one out there. But in my opinion, I like the dimensions as is. You know that you can attract high-priced free agents, maybe guys that are at the tail end of their career or maybe not in the prime of their career, because Comerica Park, where you play 81 games a year, can hold baseballs in the park. And I like the fact that it was designed, back in the day by Randy Smith and the organization at that time to be a pitcher's park.
It is.
And I kind of like it because, hey, JD still got 37 home runs. Victor Martinez and Miguel Cabrera are still able to hit because, if you recall, Dave Dombrowski moved into left field, has reconfigured the ballpark to move in the fences. They did that, but the part that's most concerning is the center field because it's, significantly larger than most ballparks. And the home runs yesterday, or the hits yesterday, would have been home runs in Chicago and most of the parks.
Well, in Chicago and U.S. Cellular Field, the cell is very, very much a sandlot for hitters. It's a hitter's ballpark. So compared to that, U.S. Cellular Field in Chicago for the White Sox, there's no comparison between Comerica and that. Comerica, at the same time, though, really is a definite pitcher's ballpark.
I like it.
Center field, like you said, deepest compared to a lot of stadiums in Major League Baseball. It really is because it's so deep there in center. But they want it that way for the pitchers. It benefits those guys. It might attract somebody. I think it's an incentive to get somebody to sign on the dotted line with the Tigers.
And here's another kind of wrinkle that's also talked about. When you negotiate a contract, if the numbers are a little bit down and you're a team like the Tigers who are now trying to manage the payroll, if JD gets to 40 to 45 home runs, his value is exponentially increased. Yeah, he's going to command big money, but also to the dimensions, help the team in terms of maybe negotiating the contracts a little bit downward.
But then his value could be sky high, though, for other teams because they see him hitting those 40, 45 in the Tigers' ballpark at Comerica, where it's a pitcher's ballpark, and they think, well, if he comes in my ballpark in Chicago or on the south side for the White Sox, he's hitting 50, 55 home runs easily, right?
Wow, exactly.
So it could be that powerful. They could look at it that way, too.
Do you think they should reconfigure the center field and change it?
They've already done left field, remember. I was going to cut you off, I know, at one point, and I didn't. And that was the point I was going to make before when you were talking about the dimensions. Left field was already moved in, remember. How many years back now? 5, 6 maybe years ago? So for me, center field is center field. It's the deepest part of every single ballpark and should stay as it is. For me, I like to see guys still get that challenge of trying to hit it out in center and to see if they can lift it that far out of the ballpark.
Plus,
so for me, I would keep it the way it is, Doc.
Plus you have a chance to see great defensive plays. You get a chance to see, Ghost or whoever's going to be out there next year in center field, track down baseballs and see what happens. If Rajah Davis stays with us, it provides a chance to see great web gems and things like that. So keep it as is. And they also point, if you look at the article too, it talks about if you reconfigure it and the way you design it, it'll even showcase more the skyline of Detroit in terms of the ballpark. So
that's the advantage to reinvigorate, revitalize Detroit, the city. But for me, the ballpark is about the ball club, and you want to keep it the way it is with the dimensions. That's our take right here on Tigers Talk of Chirco and Co.
So veto on changing the dimensions. Don't you dare do that.
So he talked about Lynn Henning as well in a recent article and got slammed by a lot of people. It was regarding trading Miguel Cabrera to rebuild completely. Ludicrous, completely ludicrous. Best ball player, best hitter of this generation, best hitter maybe in Tigers history, okay? And we're going to talk about now the best Tigers players ever for position players. But he's going to be up there one day, maybe already is in the top 5, in the top 3. So for me, that article meant nothing, had no relevance at all accompanying it. What do you think about that article by Lynn Henning talking about trading the best player that's come here to Motown in how many? In decades.
It should be talked about because
you think
of the
it should be talked about, really?
Yeah.
But they're rebooting, that's rebuilding completely.
Yeah.
And moving on to a point where you're not going to contend for anything if you trade them. And that is the case, definitely.
No, my thoughts are that you talk about it because the fact is paying $30 million to a 39, 40, 41-year-old Miguel Cabrera might not yield the return that we want. And you always look to potentially sell your assets at the highest point. And probably right now is his highest point, whereas starting next year, maybe the year after, the law of diminishing returns might kick in and we won't get as much for him. Whereas you could get 5 or 6 players and start to rebuild that minor league system because, that's the tough part of the general manager's job is that not only does he have to worry about the club now, he's got to worry about the future. Right now, potentially, if they make the wrong moves, this organization, the Tigers, could be set back for the next decade. And so you look to who's the prized possession. It's Miguel Cabrera. So you talk about it, but you never do it. You keep him here with the Tigers. He's a valued commodity. He sells tickets.
He's going to be a Hall of Famer with the Tigers,
He's going to be a Hall of Famer. You keep him here, and that's just the way it is.
The Tigers are worried about the now, not about the future. And you don't worry about what his relevance and productivity will be at the plate at 38 or 39. They're not worried about that. They weren't when they signed him to that contract, and they need him here to contend in 2016. So they want to do that. I think they have one more great, maybe 2 more great years out of him, let's say. So if you keep him healthy, you're going to get those years in 2016 and 2017. And then you worry about his downfall all the way when he's 38, 39. When it happens, then you worry about it.
So now I'm looking forward to hearing your list and of your rankings in terms of Tigers positional players. And it goes into something in the future, too, a teaser. Maybe we'll have you interview an author who sent us a book, the top 50 players overall ranked in the Detroit Tigers. A great article, a great book that was sent to us. We're looking forward to reading it among the DSP staff, and hopefully we'll have a chance to talk to the author soon.
And we're looking today at the position players, okay, for the greatest in franchise history.
So lay it on us, Vito. Who do you think?
I'll tell you right now.
Are you going to tell us the top 2 or 3 of these positions?
I've got 4 or 5, just at any position. So on the ball field, that play in the field.
Lay it on us. Give us your rankings.
Easily Ty Cobb, okay? Greatest player of all time in Tigers history. We know that. Top 5 player of all time probably in Major League Baseball history. 144.5 WAR all time. Nobody's even close to that, by the way, to matching that total for his career. LK line, Mr. Tiger himself isn't really even close, and he's at 90. Let me get it exactly here for you guys. He played 21 seasons, K-line, of 90-plus games with the organization. Came the closest among Tigers position players, not named Cobb, to eclipse a WAR of 100 in their career. So Cobb, with that being said, Cobb, LK line, and Fowlerville, Michigan native, Charlie Gehringer, Hall of Fame second baseman for the Tigers, who played in the mid-20s, 30s, and early 40s, had been the only sluggers in franchise history to reach the 80 WAR, wins above replacement threshold, in their respective careers with the Tigers. So for me, with that being said, Dak, those 3 are the best 3 of all time, and you got postseason numbers to back it up too. Specifically, LK line. In 68, he got it done for the Tigers. 2 home runs, 8 RBIs. Gehringer, in his postseason career, he made 3 trips to the Fall Classic, 1 home run, 7 RBIs. And he really helped out in 35 when they won it all at second base for the Tigers, getting it done at the plate. And even Ty Cobb, they went to 3 straight Fall Classics with him. And they lost to the Cubs in 1908 when he had a great Fall Classic. And that was the last time the Cubbies won it all. 1908, yes, was the last year. And that is something in itself as well to look at in Major League Baseball history. So, as I said, top 3 once again to recap. Right now from here, Ty Cobb, LK line, and Charlie Gehringer. But with all that said, you got some other guys to take into account here. 2 guys, for sure. Alan Trammell, Lou Whitaker. They formed that longest Major League Baseball double play tandem, okay, in Major League Baseball history from 1977 until 1995 when Lou Whitaker hung up the cleats for good. Trammell played 1 more season at Tiger Stadium with the Tigers in 1996. That was his last year on the corner of Michigan in Trumbull as a player with the Tigers. He wasn't an everyday player at that point. Was even playing third base and other positions on the infield. So more of a utility guy towards the end. And he was kind of injury prone towards the end as well. Wasn't the same caliber of a player. But when he was back in 84, specifically when in 87 when he should have won the American League MVP, when he didn't win it, but should have because the Tigers won that division in the American League East. Those 2 seasons combined tell me why he's number 4, the 4th best player among position players in Tigers franchise history. And his WAR was 70 as well. So he got to 70 in his career for wins above replacement. Whitaker a little bit more, but Whitaker never had that success that Trammell did in the postseason. When Trammell was miraculous, was great, was all-time great in 84, getting it done for the Tigers, winning the World Series MVP in 84, and should have won the American League MVP in 87. Didn't, but I still say that he did. I'll give it to him as a Tigers fan and a biased fan at times. But he did deserve it in 87. And you could argue, hey, with all that he did with the Tigers in 84, you could say that really, maybe he was a top 3 player of all time. And at that position of shortstop, he's actually the best player in Tigers history at that position right now. And that's going to last for a long, long time. And the best defensive WAR in Tigers history, Alan Trammell as well. So he got it done at the plate and in the field, Doc. And Whitaker trails behind him at number 5. So my top 5 to recap are a lot of guys that did really good in the playoffs outside of Whitaker. And that's why Whitaker's at number 5 among these 5 all-time great Tigers position players. Number 1, once again, Cobb. By far, the Georgia Peach, right, as they called him. Number 2, Mr. Tiger himself, Al Kaline. Played for a long time with the Tigers as well. Number 3, Charlie Gehringer. Played for a long time with the Tigers. Number 4, Trammell from 1977 to 96. And Whitaker at number 5, the second baseman, Sweet Lou, who played from 1977 debuted on the same day as Trammell in 1977 as well. How about that, Doc? September 9th, 1977, they both debuted as Tigers. How about that? And then lasted until 1995 as that double play tandem on the corner of Michigan in Trumbull. Great Tigers, five great Tigers right there that I just talked about. And a lot of them achieved that postseason success. And that's why those guys are my top 5 Tigers position players of all time as it stands right now. With Cabby coming close, isn't he? He's working his way up. He's about to crack that top 5 list. With another 4 or 5 seasons of great wars of 5 or above, he's going to be in the top 5 of Tigers all-time greats, all-time great position players. And for me, with all that being said, there are 2 tiers or classes of Tigers players right now. In the first class, a class of their own, are Cobb, Kaline, and Gehringer. After that are Trammell and Whitaker, number 4 and 5, in that second class all by themselves. And Cabrera, Hank Greenberg, Hammer and Hank Greenberg, okay? Great first baseman for a long time with the Tigers. Had some time where he missed out on playing baseball because of World War II and serving our country in the military. But those 2 guys, long time, not as long time as those first 5 guys, but long-time first baseman in their own right, speaking of Greenberg and now Cabby. And Cabby's about to wrap up. He's close to wrapping up 10 seasons now in the Old English D. Once he does that, has, like I said, about 4 more seasons of wars of 5 or above, he will be in that top 5 as well. And you could debate and argue that Greenberg should be in it as well. But I looked at also, all-around position players, not just great hitters, great sluggers, which Greenberg was, which Cabrera is, and will be probably going forward. But I looked at the all-around guy, and that's where WAR comes into play, and that's why I ranked those 5 guys that I named already ahead of Greenberg and Cabby, Doc. And that's what I have for now for the Tigers' all-time position greats, and it will be in an article coming out on Detroit Athletic Company, on the blog of Detroit Athletic Company, probably being released Wednesday, so the day of this podcast, or the following day, on Thursday of this week. And you should check it out. Everybody, you included, Doc, should check it out.
Great comprehensive list, Vito. I look forward to the article. Wow, man, you did a thorough job, and you're definitely going to I know you're going to like reading the book, The 50 Greatest All-Time Detroit Tigers. And you might have named the number 1.
I think I did.
You probably did, but...
comprehensive list of 5 guys. I couldn't even imagine doing the top 50 all-time Tigers greats.
Exactly.
That would take a lot of time, a lot of research. Did enough doing these top 5 guys. So with that, I think we're about done here, huh? On the 9th episode of Tigers Talk with Chirco & Co. For Doc, for me, yours truly, Vito Chirco, we're signing off for today, and we'll see you next week for the monumental episode number 10. Talk to you then.